So, welcome everyone to our live stream about the 10 commandments of AI prompting. And you just got to give me a sec here to see if we're live and how this is working. Just to make sure. Okay, this is live. This is live.
Hi, Leonard. Hi, everyone.
Okay, so I can hear myself now. That's a good sign. That means we are live. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm muting myself on all of these platforms as we're getting started. Okay, so thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm Leonard Nacke. I'm a university professor at the University of Waterloo. I am interested in AI. Hold on, just give me one more second here to mute everything because now I'm hearing myself twice, of course. Okay, now it's all working. So really happy to be here with everyone. Really happy to give you a little bit of a teaser of this masterclass that we're preparing, Reza and I, where we want to chat with people about ways that you can improve your AI strategies, specifically as a UX designer. Now, in today's webinar, we want to chat a little bit about the 10 commandments. Cheesy title, I know. It's like, you really want to call it that? But the idea behind it was essentially that we wanted to give you 10 quick and easy rules that makes it easy for everyone to get into AI prompting. And we can already see some of the comments coming in. So, hey, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate everyone tuning in. Hi, Lita. Welcome to the live stream. I know that we're up on different platforms. We're up on Substack. So if you're interested in the Substack that Reza and I are running, I'm just going to pop that up here. So you can scan that QR code if you want to find out more about this project that we're working on, which is essentially AI strategies for UX designers and UX researchers in this larger Substack. But today we want to really focus a bit more on the basics of AI prompting here. Okay, so quite excited to see people tuning in from around the world. So we had Germany. I think we had somebody coming in from maybe somewhere Asia in that corner, and we got somebody from Morocco, and we've got folks joining us from Canada, of course. As you might know, we're located in Canada. Reza and I are from the University of Waterloo, where we're bringing you this live stream from. Okay, but Reza, without further ado, we're gonna jump right into. So today we also have the option to do a little bit of prompting here. So if at any point in time Reza's like, hey, but like, can you run it in ChatGPT? I'm just gonna pop over here and try and see if I can put that in here. But I want to get started with these 10 commandments right away because we don't have a lot of time, and I just want to make sure we are covering all of these. And yeah, hi again to some of our friends here.
Hello, everyone.
Nicolas is coming in from Peru. So really, we got a global audience here. Very excited to see everyone. Reza, want to maybe give a couple of words about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for the introduction, Leonard. Hello, everyone. I'm very glad to be here today. My name is Reza Mokavi. I am a postdoc at the University of Waterloo, working with Leonard Nacke, the legend in UX and HCI research and design. He's awesome. So I'm very excited to do this masterclass together with Leonard. So I encourage everyone to come and join us in our masterclass.
Awesome. But before we do the masterclass today, we just want to give you the 10 commandments. Okay. So just like Moses. Oh no, this is not a good. This is not a good analogy. Good one. Gosh. But yeah. So the first one you might already be familiar with, and I know some people. I think Jacoba, who's tuning in, also has seen some of our AI webinars in the past. And tuned into some of the AI stuff that we've talked about as well. So one of the things we want to start with is, of course, specificity. Specificity is, as you know, super important. We want to, at the very beginning, be specific about the stuff that we want from the AI. Again, a lot of people are treating AI in a way that is basically an intern, right? Like a lot of people have this comparison where they say it's just an intern, right? Like it's a person that needs a lot of instructions, and that's kind of important. And again, just another shout out. Really, we truly have a global audience here. It's just amazing to see people from all parts of the world tuning in. So thanks to everyone from all over the planet to join us for this little webinar. Okay, so again, first one is you don't want to lack the specificity that you want to have. Riza and I were chatting about this word specificity, which is as non-native speakers, it's really hard to pronounce.
Very difficult to pronounce.
Yeah, but essentially we want to avoid that we get any sort of irrelevant responses, and we want to be specific so that the AI can understand our needs. So for example, if we go into our prompting window here, we wouldn't write something like write me a marketing plan, although this is already giving a little bit of context, but it is not enough to know everything about marketing, right? Like, so that wouldn't be a good prompt. Or if you are a UX researcher, right? Like you could also try and prompt it with something like analyze this user feedback. It wants me to write American English. Analyze this user feedback, and then you can put some user feedback in here. So that could work if you provide enough feedback. But what would be better is identify the top 5 usability issues mentioned across 15 user interview transcripts, which I have included below. And again, for that, keep in mind there is always a big context window that you need to work with. Context window is best in Gemini. We've talked about this before. Now, of course, with the new models being released recently, you've seen Claude 4, which takes a long time, by the way. It's just not the fastest kind of model. And with the Gemini models, you still have the biggest context window. So it's actually the most useful when you do this kind of user research stuff. You can put a lot of context in there. And so what I would do, I would actually not do this in ChatGPT, but I would pop over into what is Google's AI Studio. And then in the AI Studio, the nice thing is you can always get the newest preview. So I would select the newest Gemini 2.5 preview, pop it in here, and then I would actually include all of the different interviews and let it go through the transcripts. And you can upload those, and you could even record audio and other things. And you can see the token count here on the top right, which is always kind of a cool way to get an overview. And you can see there's like 1 million tokens available here. We've only used 30 with that prompt. So there's lots of space here to add user interviews and other stuff. And that's kind of cool. And that would make us, make that really easy for us. Okay, Reza, you want to chime in?
Yeah, one of the things I have realized over time is when you are targeting specificity, it is, if I pronounced it,
you did it.
it's not just narrowing down the scope of your prompting. You want to convey your intention. Because at its heart, prompt engineering to me is like some sort of interface affordance between the user and the AI, in which you are trying to convey your message to the AI so that it can produce the best outcome possible.
Absolutely.
So you need to be very specific in terms of what is the task exactly, who are the audiences, what role you want AI to put itself in, and what is going to be the outcome format. Everything should be detailed and be very specific, and then that is when you can actually get the best outcome possible. So that's my opinion. What do you think?
And it sums up our first commandment. And in the interest of time, given that we're only scheduled for half an hour, we want to kind of plow through the rest of these tips as well, or these commandments, these rules that we want to follow. But specificity, specifically giving a role, I think is a super nice way of working with that. And so like roles are also kind of helpful at the beginning. I think there's something on your mic right now. Okay, now it's better. Okay, so that's one of the things to keep in mind. Then the next thing is, of course, to break big tasks into bite-sized pieces. And this is, of course, always the idea that you could also overload it with information. Now, this is not this is very often not the case. So I would say usually more context is better. But you ideally want to create sort of a step-by-step sequence, right? Like where you're saying, summarize the key findings from these transcripts, then group them into themes. And like we can have an entire webinar about themes, and like the thematic analysis is not so great right now. But we're actually kind of thinking about writing a post on our Substack for that as well. Yeah, talking about the Substack, I kind of popped that out. I'm going to pop that back in here so that people know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about that as well. Either way, yeah, so ideally you want to have a sequence, and you want to have sort of the step-by-step work through that is available there, so that it is manageable, so that it is chunked in a way that the AI can process it better. Again, with something like Gemini, with a huge context window, it's not too big of an issue. You can actually feed it a lot of context. The more context, the better. Because keep in mind, the LLM itself, like, it's just such a large amount of information that's available there, and so like making it a little bit more narrowed down is actually useful in that case, because you're kind of telling the model where to look. It's this whole needle in a haystack situation, right? Like you could, in theory, feed it as a context window. You can feed it like 3 Harry Potter novels, and then you could search for the haystack in that context that you've established. And you could search for that specific scene that you want to work with, and it will find it, of course. So that specificity needs to be part of the prompt as well. So context, and we'll talk about context as well. Context is super important, but in terms of instructions, you definitely want to make sure you have very clear instructions, very clear tasks that you're getting out of that when you're looking for the important information, right? And so that's that. But I've been talking about context, and of course, rule number 3 is you always want to have context. If you're missing context, the LLM doesn't really know where to look, and you don't get that output that you want. So you want to definitely have that sufficient background information that gives you the context to provide the output that you want. If you're doing this in the UX context, it's the difference between saying I'm doing a banking app for seniors. That's a very different context than I'm doing a gaming platform for teens, right? Like this is a context that's not so helpful. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, that was probably loud. Sorry. And so one of the things is that you also ideally, and you can do that in the custom instructions, of course, as well, if you're using ChatGPT and other tools, you want to say who you are as well, so that it understands who the prompter is, like what's the context here, what you're working on. So I usually start my prompts with something as in like I'm writing this landing page for this webinar. I need you to help me with that, and then say why this matters. So having sort of a causal link there also establishes, specifically with the newer AIs, the higher end ones, reasoning is the big thing, right? Like they try to add a level of reasoning. So for them to understand the reason behind why you're putting in this context also really helps get a more targeted response, because that's what you want. So context isn't optional at all. You always need to have context, and it's usually the trickiest thing when you're just getting into prompt engineering. You're just getting started with writing good prompts, is like, what context am I actually going to use for this? And so I think an interesting comparison of like writing a good prompt is like writing good instructions, almost like writing an SOP, a standard operating procedure. So think of writing a good prompt in a similar way, as in like I'm writing the standard operating procedure, or even like a book almost. Like you could write, book length instructions where you're like very detailed in terms of what you need as an output.
And another thing that I want to add here is that basically your prompt is the entire mental model of your interaction with the AI. So it is important that you provide all of the required and sufficient context so that AI can understand what it is supposed to do. For example, you cannot just give a screwdriver to someone, let's say, someone say that, okay, fix something for me. You should specify what it should fix and what is the context. Is it fixing a car? Is it fixing, I don't know, a lamp or a laptop? So this should be very clear to the AI so that it can do its job efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really that's the hard part, like knowing, like I think it's clarity from your end as well, like having the clarity of what do I want to achieve here and how can I best achieve that. And by the way, we're also live on Substack. So if you're scanning that code on the top and you don't want to watch this on LinkedIn, you can actually do this on Substack as well. This is our first Substack live, so it was a bit tricky in terms of the technology. Just wanted to kind of mention that as well as we're like plowing through this. But I know we're getting a lot of folks here from LinkedIn, and just wanted to say hi again. Again, we got like so many people from around the world, Nigeria even. And that's really helpful. Really appreciate that. And Ian from Chile, good to see you here as well. Amazing. Okay, so quick shout out to everyone again, but again, we're kind of halfway through here and we're only on rule 3, so don't want to be the academic that goes over time, but I know I am sometimes. But I have another pitch meeting today where I actually need to be like on time, so this is good practice for me. Anyway, the fourth rule that we have here, the fourth commandment that we want to bring forward, is that you want to ditch the ambiguous language if you can, right? So ideally, here you don't want to be unclear. Like clarity is always super important, and sometimes words can have double meanings. And if you're prompting AI for the first time, this might actually be something that you come across with when you're working with it, is that it might misinterpret your intent, right? There are words, specifically if you're using English, that can mean two different things. And again, context helps you set that precision and like helps you understand that. A lot of people, this was me at the beginning as well, just say make this better, right? Like or improve the quality even, which is slightly better, but ideally you want to be specific about the outcome. So if you're using an email and you're just like make this email better, that's not enough. You want to say rewrite this email to sound apologetic or professional, and then you have a much clearer direction in terms of the outcome that you want to achieve.
Leonard, do you know what one of the tricks that I am using it daily is I'm asking AI to give me words with closed semantic field so that I can tighten up the prompts. For example, I have a specific task in my mind. I say, give me the word choices that have a closed semantic field. Like Leonard said, so it is not a good idea to use terms like performance, success, quality. You need to be very clear about what those terms mean. And it's always good to also maybe converse with AI itself to come up with good solutions or good ideas to tighten up the prompt a bit better.
Absolutely. Like in terms of the follow-up, right now we're even just getting into how do you structure a good prompt, but then the additional thing is, of course, like how do we even do a good follow-up? How do we drill deeper? And a lot of the times, if the specificity is missing or if the output is ambiguous, the next step will be to seek clarification and to really ask it to drill down more in the direction that you want the output to go. So super important to get rid of that ambiguity. And then the next thing is, of course, that you need to have goals, right? Like setting a goal is the same as setting a goal for an intern, right? Like if you have a good goal that somebody can work towards, that is a much more focused response that you're getting. So clearly stating your desired outcome helps the AI be more effective for that outcome. As an example, if we're in the UX space and we're using it, so this is something that we chat about in our masterclass as well, or that we will chat about in our masterclass if you sign up for it, is generating interview questions, right? And so you could just say generate some interview questions, but the better way would be to say generate 8, like specify how many open-ended interview questions that help me understand how users decide between productivity app A and productivity app B if you're comparing different apps or something like that. So the AI needs to know where you're going so it can best assist you to go in that direction. That's really the key here, right? And that's kind of what we want to provide there. Did you want to add anything to that, Reza?
No, but actually, if you can, again, break down the goals into smaller pieces, smaller chunks of goals, that would be
Mm-hmm.
much better. For example, what always comes to my mind is something similar to divide and conquer. We having
Yeah.
computer science algorithms, right? So
Yeah.
break down the goal into smaller goals, like sub goals, and try to ask AI to maybe answer to each of those sub goals accordingly. That's what I
Absolutely.
do.
Yeah, yeah. I like that too. Like the breaking down part, I think is super important. And then another thing, this is interesting because I saw Nick Fine post about this on LinkedIn the other day, because he always gives these amazing rants about, it's not doing what I want it to do. And that's actually quite often, I think, like when you're doing your first interactions with these things, that it's not necessarily doing the exact thing you want it to do. But the trick around that is to find out these limitations and then also use the right AI, you must say, almost, or the right LLM for the right job, right? Like one of the things that everyone knows is Claude 4 is fantastic when it comes to coding, right? It's gotten even better with the new iteration. It takes a longer time, but it's really fantastic to get you started, and then you can take it to Cursor or other apps that help you do context-specific coding there, and then just kind of helps you, drill deeper in the app. In a similar way, Claude can also be used to write first drafts. Like the writing is pretty good. Although recently, I have to say, ChatGPT really caught up in the recent version with 04 and even 4.0. The naming's so confusing, but like 4.0 was already pretty good when it came to creative writing. Like it came pretty close to Claude now, and that's pretty fantastic too. And then you can use that. You could feed it into a Notion document. This is actually how I work with a lot of my newsletters. Is I get a first idea, put it in a Notion doc, and then I refine with context-sensitive prompts inside of Notion with Notion AI, which of course, as you know, is Anthropic. Again, like they're just licensing the Anthropic AI, and so that's interesting to know, like where are the limitations for these AIs and what do they really excel at. Some people, there's then the silly stuff. Now, of course, Gemini 2.5 is kind of like really hitting the benchmark on a lot of different things. So it's like the best multi-tool AI, I would say, is like a Swiss Army knife sort of thing, because it's good at writing, but it's also good at the logic. And so one of the things is, some is really good at pattern recognition, some is really good at content generation, some is really good for these emotional discussions that people are having with AI, where they're just having this back and forth chat, right? But I think the interesting thing is to just know what you're getting into and know that, okay, if I want to find good instructional things, Grok is actually not too bad, because it has that whole Twitter/X user base that it really gets like these tips and tricks that people were tweeting about, but it's also really verbose in its output. So just knowing that you're dealing with that helps. But then Gemini might be really good, specifically deep research. I mean, we're not deep research, again, it's like a topic on its own, but like deep research is really fantastic when it comes to going really deep. And Gemini 2.5 deep research can't be beat right now. That's really like the gold standard when it comes to that. And it's quite exciting to see that.
And a good trick here, actually, regarding the limitations is also after AI is generating an output, also to ask AI what are your limitations, or
Yeah.
what were the limitations in the outcome you generated.
Yeah.
This way, you can also reflect on those, maybe improve your prompt a bit, and also do further investigation. So for me, I always take whatever AI is generating with a pinch of salt, because I also need to
You
actually,
got it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise it
Exactly.
makes mistakes.
Yeah. No, that's fine. And like this whole way of getting AI to criticize itself, I think that's really like a major hack that a lot of people don't actually realize, that,
Exactly.
you can get it. But the thing is, again, don't blindly trust it. Again, this is what a lot of people are noticing. It's just so confident in criticizing, but you also have to critically assess the output and kind of see, like, is that actually warranted criticism? And so it helps to kind of, dig into that as well.
Mhm.
But it does help, because it helps you think about the criticism as well, and then you can evaluate whether that's valid criticism or not. So that's really like a nice way forward. Okay, so we got our 7th rule here, which is to write for your real audience. So this is really like a lot of marketers, a lot of salespeople. That's their bread and butter, right? Like having a persona. And actually, if you're in UX, this is true too. As a UX person, you're usually working with some sort of persona or target market, target audience. And so again, let me point to some of the things that we're going to teach in this. I'm going to just put it in here. This AI powered UX designer webinar that or masterclass that we're going to be hosting, where essentially we want people to understand how to understand your audience in the first place, and that's a real core UX skill that you have to kind of understand. Like, how do I get a better idea of the audience? So some of the initial prompts might be forming your audience and understanding that audience, and that really helps you get to that specific response that you want. The purpose and the audience is the direction, really another pointer in the right direction that you can give to the AI here. So knowing the audience and summarizing, let's say in UX, summarizing findings for, not just summarizing findings, but summarizing findings for a manager who needs quick action items. All of a sudden you got your nice project report, right? Like, and it's an easier way to communicate it. You still have to do some fine tuning on it, but it is a more explicit way to tell the AI what to do next. So that's, I think, also kind of super important. Did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, and we always actually, as UX researchers and designers, we always want that human-centered design, or that specific human-centered lens to be present in whatever we are doing. So yeah, maybe we need to make sure that we are empathizing with users, with our target audience. All of these are important, and you shouldn't allow AI to substitute the human voice.
Yes.
That is something that we need to be careful about.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we have articles about that as well, where it's just like, okay, so what is actually this human touch that you want to keep in there? And I think that is also one of the tricks that makes sense for UX designers to work with, because as UX designers, that's really at the core of that. Yeah. I think this was an interesting comment from Dr. Suri that I just read, which was good commands are oxygen for ChatGPT, and that's really that's what that is, right? Like, you want to give more oxygen to the AI fire that you're lighting up here. And talking about oxygen, another way to do that is, of course, to provide examples all the way, right? So we talked about context, but like context is great. Like, you want to help it understand what context it's in, so it can get through that understanding of how to do something in that context. But if you, let's say, you want a specific report structure, I want a specific social post style, I want a specific tone, I need to provide an example, right? So for this, it's actually good to go away from one-shot prompting. A lot of people are still stuck in one-shot prompting, but it is actually better to go into multi-shot prompting, or few-shot prompting, as it's called, where you're giving examples after the output comes. So the output comes and you're like, this is great, but can you follow this structure? Here's an example of that exact structure I need you to follow. Here's an example of that exact tone that I'm aiming for. And this kind of really helps you get a better way to create the thing that you need. It's the same for images, by the way, right? Like Reza and I have this interesting thing that we want to teach you in the masterclass. Again, I'm just going to pop that in here. But one of the things in the masterclass is that we really want you to understand how you can go from a quick sketch to an awesome image, and how you can refine that in a couple of prompts. And that really gets you, like, for example, for wireframing, and gets you really quickly all the way to like a good wireframe. And so this is done with good examples, and we'll walk you through some of the examples in there. Okay, so the next one we have here, did you want to add anything to that?
I think we're okay
to just hop on, right? Because we're getting kind of close to the end. So embracing the feedback loop is also super important. So your first prompt is usually not perfect. So one of the things that you want to do is to, and this was the big unlock for ChatGPT, because LLMs have been around before that, but ChatGPT turned it into a chat. And so embrace that chat idea, right? So it's not a one shot, but it's usually a few shot exercise where you're adding spices and tunings. Some of the people that have seen my other AI webinars in the past know that I have this list of spices that I give out, and it's ever growing. And we want to give you some of these AI spices that you can essentially add as a UX researcher as well in your day-to-day work. And so that really helps you kind of cook the right dish, almost to say, right? Like it helps you to add different bits and pieces to create better ideas for each point. Rewriting it for a technical audience, explaining it like a 5-year-old. Some of these things are the most common ones, but you can get way more technical than that, right? Like in the UX field, you would then ask for a specific empathy-based assessment of this data that you feed it. And then you get some ideas about the pretended empathy of the bot, essentially. But that will help you. That's like a nice reflection piece that then helps you understand your own empathy towards it.
And to be honest, actually, there's also another thing I want to add here.
Yeah.
This chat feature in actually platforms like ChatGPT is a very awesome feature because technically we shouldn't look at prompting like a static input box for actually sending messages to AI. No, it's a mutual conversation, and as we are conversing with AI, we are technically also creating a very huge, more comprehensive prompt over time. So this receiving feedback, giving feedback to AI, this mutual interaction between both of us is the thing that creates the best prompt, in my opinion.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree with you. So that's really sort of key in getting that interaction going perfectly. And I know we're kind of running out of time, so we want to end it here on the 10th rule of the 10th commandment. We've split the sea. Just kidding. So we're keeping it simple and we're keeping it clear. Overcomplicating prompts really helps no one. And a lot of people that are getting started are just trying to do everything right and trying to do everything properly. But you know what? It is really not about complexity or using the right technical language or something like that, but it's more about being straightforward and being clear, being very clear, simple, using verbs to drive the prompt, and then essentially allowing you to consistently outperform something that is more complex, something that is a nominalized prompt. So like knowing a little bit about language actually helps you create a better prompt, because languaging is really important there as well. You want to explain the task
Absolutely.
well. You don't want to write a dissertation essentially. Yeah.
And I want to also add something here because I see many people just think that verbosity is equal to clarity, which is not the case. So verbosity is not equal to clarity. And in fact, it is the way you're writing specifically, or very organized, or very clearly communicating with AI what you want, that is what gets you the best outcomes. Otherwise, just writing too many words, as Leonard said, like a dissertation, is definitely not the way. And there's a topic in machine learning as well. We call it entropy, which is the uncertainty in machine learning models. We are going to talk about that a bit in our masterclass, which is also playing a role here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that was great. Thanks so much for tuning in with us. We're going to let you go into your lunch break now if you're in North America. If you're obviously everyone's somewhere else in the world. So if you are around in the world somewhere, we hope that you have a good evening or wherever you're at. Really appreciate you tuning in on all these different platforms. This was our first Substack live stream, but we also streamed on LinkedIn, which is, I think, where we have most people tuning in from. Really appreciate you making the time for this. And we just want to end with that little note that if you're interested in this and you're kind of considering upgrading your skills as a UX designer, maybe even as a UX researcher, somebody interested in the field of UX at all, then we will be hosting this 3-hour masterclass in a couple of weeks, I think 3 weeks from now. So you can find that information if you scan that QR code, and I can leave the link in the comments as well. And we would love to see you there. Of course, lots of bonuses that we provide there. We have a huge prompt pack coming up that we worked on together. I called it the Professor's Prompt Pack. Is that fair if Reza helps me to call it the Professor's Prompt Pack? It just had such a nice ring to it. Anyways, it's like 50 plus prompts that you can just plug and play if you want. And that gets you going for UX design and research. We'll have some workflows. So we'll try to really help you with some of these workflows in the UX space, and really kind of help you get those designs moving, and take away some of the fear too. I think a lot of people are just so afraid of touching AI or worrying about, where do we even go with all of this technology? Does it actually make any of our output better? So we want to give you that guide and really help you use it in a conscious way. And that also means if you've seen any of our webinars before, you know that I'm a big stickler for ethics, and we always talk about ethical prompting, ethical frameworks. And this is the interesting thing about AI, right? Like, it's a massive power tool, but it can be used for good and bad. And really, we want you to have an opportunity here to use it for good. We want to give you the opportunity to create something awesome. And we'll give you that framework of reference. We'll put you in that driver's seat to make sure that it is that good and really that great for you, that you can feel confident using it and you get the outputs that you desire. That's about it. We look forward to seeing you there. If you're interested in that, by all means, pop over there and scan that QR code for the AI-powered UX designer. It's going to be 3 hours. They're going to go by so fast. Of course, you'll get access to the recording as well. And it's limited. We only got 30 seats because we want this to feel like an exclusive gathering. We want to make sure that we answer your questions well, and we'll have some hands-on exercises as well. So very small group masterclass. Okay. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks, Reza, for joining us. We'll do more of these. I think we'll do some more of these. Just get warmed up for the masterclass.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Leonard.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.